Hello guys, welcome back to the channel. So in this tutorial, we're going to continue with our introduction to databases using MySQL series. So in this tutorial, we're going to be looking at the correlated queries. So what are correlated queries? So similar to the subquery that we looked at in the last video, but the inner query is going to be executed every time the outer query gets executed. So for each row of the outer query, for each row of the outer query, the subquery will be executed. That's basically what we call now a correlated query. And the table from the outer query is going to be used within the subquery. And that's what we call correlated queries. So that's basically how correlated query works basically for each of the execution of the outer loop, the inner loop, also, or the subquery, kind of thing of it like that. It's also going to be executed. Okay, so that's what we call a correlated query. So let's just go ahead. Let me demonstrate to you what I'm trying to explain to you. So we have a query right here, and this query, what this query simply does is select the employee's first name, the last name, the city in which they came from, like the city in which they work, right? And that we get that from the office table, and also the territory of which the city the city in which they work is located. So you can check all that information out. Let me just close it. You can check out all that information out on the the office table, and it gives you all that information right here. You can also check that out on the employee table. It also gives you the employee and I think the office they work for. So using the office code, we can connect each employee to with respect to which office they work for, and then you can get even the territory in under which they work, like the Japan, APAC, and all that information. Okay. So what I want to do right now, you have a query right here, and this query simply does that. So if I execute this query, and we wrote this query using join. So if you haven't want to learn about joins, we covered them in the previous tutorials, so some tutorials back, so you can check out those tutorials on how joins work. Okay, so you can see we have them right here, right? The employee, their first name, their last name, the city in which they come from, and then finally the region which they work for, right? The territory in which their office is. Okay, now how can you write this with a correlated query? Because I want to repeat the same query just like this without having to use a join. Okay, and that's why I can use a correlated query. Because for each employee we get from the employees table, we are going to go ahead and get the employee city or territory, city and territory from the office table. So we can think of that as a correlated query, because we'll be using the employees detail inside of our subquery to filter the subquery as well to get the city and the territory. Okay. So if you don't understand this, don't worry. Let me just go ahead and explain to you. So I'm going to write this same query using a correlated queries, just like that. So once we have this, once I have this comment written right here, let's go ahead and repeat the same thing using correlated queries. So I'm going to go ahead and say select. I'm going to go ahead and say select. Let's say select everything, right? Everything from. Just gonna be. Let me just make it up. So from the employees table. So employee. And you're going to use an alias name as E. Good. So we'll select everything just basically from the employees table. So if I execute this query, we just get back this basically okay, there's no employees. Okay, my bad. So employees table, and then run that. You're going to get back all the records from the employees table right here. Good. So once we have this done, now what I want to do, I want to get the first name. So I'm going to say e dot first name, and I want to get e dot last name. Okay, so I'm going to get e dot first name and e dot last name. So once I have this, I'm going to select this and then execute the query again, and this is going to return to me only the first name and the last name of the employees. Good. So now we also need the city and the territory in which the city in which their office is located, and also the territory, right? So let's go ahead and get that. So I'm going to do this. I'm going to be using a correlated query. So what I'm going to go ahead and do here, I'm going to have kind of like a subquery. Okay, so that's basically a correlated query is more like a subquery. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and simply select. I'm going to select the city, right? I'm going to select the city, because this table, the office table, has the city. So you can see you have the city city column. Let me find where the city column is. Oh yeah, the city. So I'm going to select the city column. So select the city column, and then I'm going to, this is going to be coming from which table? This is going to be offices table. So offices with an alias name of O, right? That's basically it. And I'm going to have a where clause where I'm going to say e dot office. Office code is going to be equals to, and you can see E is part of the outer loop, and that's one of the difference between a subquery and a correlated query, in that the subquery of a correlated query also uses the table or information from the outer query. That's basically it. So a correlated query, they are related in the sense that the inner query uses column names or uses table information of the outer tables that are within the outer query. Okay, so I'm going to say e dot office name is going to be o dot office office name. So office name, just like that. So that's basically it. So once we run this, now it's going to return to us also the city, and you can give it an alias. Then you can say us, you can say city. Okay, so once I have that done, I'm just going to go ahead and select the query again and simply run it. So run it, and you can see now we have another column called city. We have the employee's first name, their last name, and the city in which they come from. And that's how a correlated query works. Okay, so for each execution of the outer query, the inner query is going to be executed as well. So let's go ahead and let me just explain to you this using the first row. So the first row we have Diane and then Murphy, right? Okay, so we have the first name and the last name. They're gonna be picked from the employees table, right? And then you're going to go ahead and execute this subquery, which is going to go ahead and select the city whereby the employee's office code is the same as the office code of that specific city. And once we get it, you have to just give it an alias name city, and then we get those three different columns at the same time. So that's done row after row. So on each row, both the outer query and the inner query are going to be executed, unlike for the subquery whereby the inner query the inner query is executed only once at the very start. Okay, so that's a correlated query. And yeah, so a correlated query, if each line of the outer query is executed, also the inner query is also executed, and also use table names or information from the outer from the outer query within our inner subquery. That's how you can think of subqueries. So yeah, that's basically it. And okay, yeah, so that's basically. So now once you secure this and run the code again, let me just go here, run the code again. So run the code, and now you get back the information that you want. So if I go, you can see the city, there's different cities. So let's actually write the code to select only employees, let's say from Paris. Okay, let's select only employees whose cities are located in Paris. Okay, so with subqueries, you have to go ahead and use having clause, because subqueries, I told you, every query is going to be executed aligned by when the subquery is executed, also the inner query is going to be executed. So we're going to go ahead and use the having clause, because the where clause we will not work here. Okay, so you can actually try. Let's say where, and you can say e dot let's say of city, whereby city, which is the city that you selected, city equals to, let's say, Paris. Okay, Paris. And then we try to run this. Let's see, it's going to work, but I doubt if it's going to work. So if you run it now, you can see we get back. Okay, it kind of works, but really not what we wanted. So you can see we get back this right here. So whereby city is Paris, we don't actually get that being executed. Okay, so that's one of the issues. That's an error. So what you have to do is you have to say having. And to understand this, I explained to you the order of execution using the previous table. So you can go ahead and check that table of the order of execution. Actually, let me just, I think I made an error when I was using the where clause. So let me just use simple equal. Okay, so my bad, I'm used to writing programming, so I'm just used to using a double equal. So my bad there. And you can see now we have an error right there. It doesn't actually work. Okay, that's how I was expecting at first. It shouldn't really work, because you should use the having clause instead. Okay, and again, to understand this, you can just look at my video on where I talk about the order of execution of this query. So let me just say having just like this, having city equals to Paris, and I go ahead and simply execute this. And when I execute this, now you can get only employees from Paris. Now you can see that query works perfectly. Okay, so my bad of writing double equal. I'm just used to writing Python and other stuff like that. So yeah, so that's how you can see we get the city now is going to be Paris. So that's basically how you can use a subquery even to filter information, right? So you see, we have written the same code twice, but now this time we use a correlated query instead of an SQL join. So that's another alternative. Instead of using SQL joins, you can use subqueries or correlated queries to achieve the same thing. Okay, yeah. So the way you write code might be different from the way another person writes it. So if you see another person using joins, and then you prefer subqueries or correlated queries, that's not an issue. But which one of them is the best to choose? And should you use a join? Should you use a subquery, or should you use a correlated query? Right? And that's where you need to analyze the performance of your queries, and that's what we're going to cover in the next video. So in the next video, we're going to be looking at query plan and how to analyze the performance of your queries, and to see which query is actually giving you its fastest. Okay, so we're going to be looking at that in the next video. Okay, so we're only going to cover it in this video. Next video, we'll look at those how to examine your query plan, and from there you can decide to choose whether to use a join, whether to use a subquery, whether to use a correlated query. You can analyze your query to see which query is performing better. Okay, so there's no like best approach. You just have to test everything and pick the one which is working best in your specific use case. Okay, so guys, thanks for watching. Again, if you're new to the channel, please kindly consider subscribing to the channel. liking this video and sharing this content with anyone who you think might find it helpful. Again, if you want to support me, you can buy me coffee. The links will be in the description of the video. So thanks for watching. See you in the next one and keep safe.